Hello guys, this is Gondo with some updates to the Apollo PCBs firmwares, okay? So I am issuing a firmware update here for basically four reasons. The first reason is that QMK has now changed to what they call a data-driven configuration, right? You guys will be able to see everything. The firmware will be open source, of course, and so yeah, the file is here. Took me a while to figure it out, but it's done. So the firmware is now more modern, right? So supposedly less bugs, works better, that kind of thing. The second reason was that some users have reported that the first LED in the chain, specifically the pause key LED, this guy here, would blink green when startup, but then it wouldn't turn off. Even if you try to turning RGB off, it would just keep the color green for some reason. This has been a QMK bug for quite a while, and no one has figured that out. So what I've done here is basically I am forcing the keyboard to reload whatever configuration there is from the RGB and reinforcing that configuration on startup, right? So here's the source file. There we go. So there's this function called an RGB matrix startup, right? So it disables the RGB, waits a little bit, 20 milliseconds, reloads the configuration from EEPROM, and then resets the RGB configuration. You guys should see the light blink, but it should get back to normal to turn it off. If you turn the RGBs off, it should get turned off. If you guys have any animation set, it should get back to the animation, right? The third reason I'm issuing a firmware update is because now you guys have the RGB controls in VIA, right? So once I go here, authorize my device, there we go. Now you can control the RGB stuff in VIA, right? So you can select brightness, what the heck, supernova. You can select the mode. So, you know, all modes are here. You can select the color. Is there a breathing kind of deal? Let's see, breathing. There we go. There's a breathing. Hell yeah. So, yeah, now everything is settable. Speed also settable in VIA if you guys want to play with it. There it is. Up, down. Up, down seems nicer, honestly. It is what it is. Awesome. So now you can select the RGB configuration in VIA as it should be. And the fourth reason is that I've added what we call indicators, right? So the PCB now has 4 indicators. By default, only the first 2 are enabled, but you can enable the third and the fourth, right? So the idea here is that you guys can set up the indicators colors, brightness, and even their function, and even their index, like which LED does the indicator that you want. So for instance, indicator 1 is set up as a caps lock. It should be in the caps lock key by default, right? So if I press caps lock, there we go. So see that this light turns on and off. The indicator 2 is also set by default. It's the scroll lock, right? If you don't want scroll lock, you can just disable the indicator, and that key is gonna work just like an animation, just like all the other ones. The caps lock one also, right? So if you disable the indicator, there we go. There it is. It just works as a normal LED, how you would expect it, right? But the cool part about it is that you can even set up functions, right? So for indicator 2, let me turn off the lighting just so you can see this better, right? So indicator 1 does caps lock. There we go, caps lock does just fine. You can select brightness. There we go. You can select color. There we go, brightness. So you can set a color that does that matches your key set, for instance. Pretty dope. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's get it back to white. Now, say that I want an indicator. I want indicator 2 to be a layer indication, right? Instead of scroll lock. So you can enable it, and you can set it up as a layer 1. So when you press layer 1, where's the layer 1 is here. There you go. So it does layer 1. Pretty dope. But let's just say like layer 1 should be here, like where the layer 1 key actually is. So what you can do is, let me put a key here. There you go. See, so layer 1. And then you can select the index, like you can sweep the index here. There we go. And you can select the actual LED that you want it to do, right? So there we go. Nice. So now the actual key does the indication, right? There you go. So the nice thing about it is that, and then again, you can also select the color. Let's put it blue, whatever, right? So you can make it match a mod key that you have there, whatever. I don't know. If you have an artisan in Escape, pretty nice stuff. Now, what's the nice thing about this? Then again, it's fully customizable. You can select color, brightness, in which LED does it, and the functions, right? If you guys want an added function for the indication, you want it to indicate something else, I don't know, please tell me and I'll try to make it work, okay, in a later patch. But there is just one caveat to it, which is if you place 2 indicators at the same LED. So here I have indicator 1 set up at the caps lock key for caps lock, and I have indicator 2 for the mode, for the layer key, right? Here in the layer key. However, you might ask, what happens if you place the layer key at caps lock, right? So like if you force both indicators to be at the same LED, what's gonna happen? Well, Uncle Gonda thought of that because Uncle Gonda knows that some of you are gonna try my firmware out and see what it does, right? And there you go. Ooh, almost there. Come on. There you go. So what actually happens is that the higher indicators supersede the other ones. So now what we have is indicator 2 and indicator 1, they are set up at the same LED. So indicator 2 takes the priority. So it actually does indicator 2, right? It doesn't do indicator 1 anymore. And you know, this was made just so that, you know, in the case of a user of any I would imagine that you guys wouldn't set it, you know, at the same LED on purpose, but in the case of some kind of error or something, so that the firmware doesn't bug, right? The idea is that the higher indicators supersede the other ones. So just be wary of that. If you place 2 indicators at the same LED, the higher indicator supersedes the lower ones. So if I do indicator 4, I'm going to enable it. I'm going to do caps lock, right? And I'm going to place it at the same at caps lock 2. There we go. So now the key actually does caps lock again, right? Because indicator 4 is there, and indicator 4 supersedes everyone. If I disable indicator 4, then it gets back to indicator 2, right? There we go. So that's how it works. Now comes the bad part. How do you get this? You unfortunately are going to have to reflash your PCBs, right? There's a special way to do this, though. You guys are going to need to flush your EEPROM, clear your EEPROM. And how do you do that? Well, I would imagine that most of you are not exactly big fans of cracking up your keyboards to flash the PCB, right? So what you're going to do is, together with this video, I'm going to supply a binary file for QMK, so a QMK bin, and a via JSON.json file that that you guys are gonna use. With this file, you guys are going to flash the binary, and you guys are going to use the new via JSON file, right? Once the via JSON file gets PR'd to the official via repo, you guys are not going to need that anymore. But in any case, that's what needs to be done. How to reflash. So what you guys are going to do is you guys are going to unplug your PCBs. You guys are going to press the escape key. You guys are going to hold the escape key, and then you're going to plug the PCB in. After a couple seconds, say 5 seconds, if I let it go, I should see a current project. I should see an STM32 device. Let's see. Come on, PCB. Everyone's watching. Why you do this? There we go. So STM device in DFU mode, and then you can flash, right? I'm on Linux, so I'm using the command line tool, but you guys can use your QMK toolbox, which is what I think most of you are gonna use. And then this is compiling, and then it's gonna flash. Awesome. Let's wait for flashing. Nice. There we go. Unfortunately, this is gonna wipe your configurations. Okay, I'm so very sorry, but you guys are going to need to go again into VIA and setting your layouts again. This is needed because the new all of the new configuration is stored up in EEPROM, right? So the old EEPROM needs to be updated. If you guys just flash and don't wipe the EEPROM, the PCB is probably gonna behave errantly. It's probably gonna behave weird. So absolutely wipe that EEPROM, okay? If for some reason you guys did not wipe the EEPROM, you can do it later, right? So you can flash, and you flashed, but you didn't wipe EEPROM, and you're like, hey, Gondo, what do I do now because I didn't wipe EEPROM before flashing? You can just wipe later. You can just go, okay, so if PCB is behaving wildly, you can just do unplug, press escape, replug. Nice. Let's wait here. Where the heck? Yes, I listened to Bring Me the Horizon. I'm and the Blut Angle. I'm emo. I'm sad today. I'm sorry. There we go. STM32. You don't need to reflash. You can just do this. Unplug and replug, and it should work now. So then again, if you didn't wipe EEPROM before flashing, you just flashed, and now PCBs behave weirdly, you can wipe EEPROM, but you don't need to reflash yet again. If you guys have questions, if you guys have anything that you want to ask, if you guys have questions on how to flash the PCB and that kind of thing, please feel free to ping me or DM me on Discord, and I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. Unfortunately, I get lots of questions daily, sometimes on the hundreds. So it's a little bit weird for me. It's a little bit difficult for me to answer all of them with much care. I'm so sorry about that. But if you guys are having trouble, don't hesitate to ask for support. Specifically on the Geon server, there's also the amazing folks at Geon that are also always willing to help if you guys need any support. Thank you guys so much, and that's it. I'm out. See ya.